Welcome to the Whiskey with Winners podcast, the show with business titans sharing their stories of the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite glass of whiskey, and listen to the real and raw stories of these industry leaders. Now, here's your host, the man, the myth, the legend, the most interesting marketer, Jacob Fail.
What's up, everybody? It's Jacob Fell, the most interesting marketer, CEO, and founder of Brute Media Group. And today we have the real man, the real myth, and the real legend here. We have Travis Lineras on the show, and he is the CEO and founder of LeadNinja.io. And this man has incredible work ethic. He has done tons and tons of things. He has his hand in everything and has built tons and tons of businesses. So I want to introduce Travis to the Whiskey with Winners podcast. How's it going, Travis?
Hey, man, thank you for having me here, and it's going pretty good. How's it going with you?
Things are great, brother. Things are great. Travis is a dear friend. We've known each other for several years, and he's actually one of the few internet marketers out there that I've met in person, which was pretty awesome. We met at a mastermind down in Austin, which was pretty cool. So I kind of want to just dive into who you are, Travis. What was the young Travis growing up like? I mean, I feel like you were probably coding, writing code and software out of the womb. Tell us what your background is and where you grew up and all that.
Yes, so I'm from Florida. I'm from Tampa, Florida, and I have been coding for quite some time. However, when I first was growing up, I had an uncle and an aunt, and it's kind of what was a determining factor in a lot of different things. My uncle had a computer shop, and my aunt had a law firm, and she basically taught me stuff during the summer, and he taught me stuff during Christmas break and a couple other different times throughout the year. And so she was really pushing really hard for me to become a lawyer, which during the summer we would write stuff from the law book, which was never really fun. But I learned a lot from that. And I learned a lot about business because she sat there teaching me. And she kind of geared me towards really becoming a lawyer, and I was going to do it. And then, I don't know, that computer just got me wrapped around my finger. So it's like one thing led to another. I started first messing around with some design, and then I got into learning, and this is going to show my age a little bit, but learning how to build something called bulletin boards before they had websites. And I built one for a pawn shop, and the guy paid me just a little under $300, and I was 14, almost 14. I was 13, 14 years old at the time, and getting $300 at 13 years old was a lot of money back then. And so I bought my first video game system by myself, and I was like, all right, this is good money in here. And I liked it, So I started learning and understanding and pursuing that. However, I ended up playing football. So I didn't really, and which a lot of people don't know, is I ended up playing football for high school, and I also played college ball as well. And long story short, I probably would have kept playing football if it wasn't for running off the field line and tripping over a tripod and breaking my foot, or my leg, actually. And so, yeah, I mean, then I decided I had to use my brain. So I went back into computer science, and I graduated from USF, University of South Florida, go Bulls. I had a couple other colleges that were underneath my belt, and things changed because I was going to go to MIT, but I ended up having a child. So I have a son. He's now in college actually now. So yeah, that was a fast version of everything real quick.
Nice. So I actually didn't know that you played football, which kind of makes sense because you're a really tall guy. I mean, you're like what, 6'3", 6'4"?
Yeah, I'm just a tad bit under 6'4". Yeah, 6'3".
Yeah. So I should have expected that, but that's awesome. So you were on the track, you were doing college football. You started out making bulletin boards for pawn shops, and once you made that bulletin board, did that kind of spark the entrepreneurship in you, or did you just kind of always have that in you, or were you slinging candy bars on the side? What sparked that?
So I tried the candy thing, but it wasn't very profitable in my mind at the time. But what I did was I used to, quote unquote, burn CDs,
Yeah.
regular CDs, and then I got into burning video on demand, right? And so what I would do was I would go to like car meets and stuff like that and sell car videos to these people, because it was like kind of like niching down and taking candy from a baby, really.
Right.
But yeah, I did try the candy thing. I went from candy to lollipops only, and then I got into these things called snow cone things, but they were like polar cups. And
Yeah.
my friend owned a polar cup company. Was dad owned a polar cup company, and I resold them. I guess I was an affiliate for him at the time. Back then, I didn't know what that meant though. And I tried a couple different things. I went into, let's say, after college, I worked for some large companies like Microsoft and T-Mobile, Data Center, Fox News, MGM Studios. Those were all big companies, and I guess I never really fit in. So like I would go with corporate world and do this, and then all of a sudden I would do the uncorporate world where, I tried to start up a music label, and we did a reggaeton. It was actually a Christian reggaeton album that actually hit in Puerto Rico, and so tried that. Just different things happen. I learned the positives and negatives of having a partner, and
Right.
then tried a couple other different things. There was a Shock the World Entertainment. There's just a whole bunch of different things that I had tried off and on. Lots of failures, but there were micro failures. There wasn't like a dramatic failure here, dramatic failure there, but it was enough that I was like, all right, well, I'm going back to the corporate world. No, let me go back. Let me go back to the corporate world. No, I'm going back to the entrepreneur world. And then I really, in my 20s, I knew what entrepreneurship was, but I really didn't know what I was stumbling upon each time I was jumping out there, right?
Right. Well,
so
and with that too is you're probably you're thinking of the corporate world as nice, it's safe, like you got that consistent income, but then
it my mom really
Yeah.
she was like, oh, and she even sometimes, like, I love her, but sometimes she even, just like last 2 years, she was like, oh, I found a job, it has health benefits. I was like,
Right.
Mom, do you realize, I'm not going to be able to afford what I'm living in and doing what I'm doing to be able to go get that kind of job. It's just not going to work. I'm not doing jobs anymore. I have to let you understand. I'm an entrepreneur probably for the rest of my life. It's just how it is. But yeah, so that was a big hurdle too. Is trying to not really convince, but I guess convince a little bit my parents, because my dad was always a supporter in the corner, but he's a very charismatic guy, and he understands the game. He was never an entrepreneur, but all my siblings, my brothers, I have 3 brothers, all of them were in some sort of entrepreneurship role. One guy owns some pizza places. Another guy owns like a video editing company, and they both were very successful. So I did see some of that, even though they are about 10 years older than me, so it's a big gap, right?
Right.
But maybe I learned some of that from them, but honestly, I really think it was from my uncle and my aunt, and my dad just always being there supporting me. My mother always supported me too. I love her, but she was just like, maybe you should get a job, or maybe you should do this. Or anytime something, fell down, she was just there ready, like, oh, you should be doing this. She always had some sort of potential solution, but it was never really become an entrepreneur until about May of 2018 is when she finally was like, huh, you made $100,000 in 1 month?
Right.
And I was like, yeah, actually it was 103,000. And that was actually the month that I met you. That was at May 5th or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just got to $100,000 a month of my agency at that point, and they were like, my parents were like, oh, okay, all right. Is this consistent? You know, are you gonna have a retirement plan? I'm like, I guess if I say 1 month, I have a retirement plan. If I do
Right.
it over and over again, right?
Exactly.
And then so, you know, and then I, of course, you know, I guess she didn't really see it because I was just staying in a very nonchalant place. It was just, you know, I mean, not saying that it was bad, but it was just about 3,000 square feet. And, you know, but then when I started adding things like I, you know, bought a new house and, you know, driving around in nicer cars and stuff like that, I guess it clicked to her visually, right?
Right.
Because I never told her like, well, this is what I have in my bank account. You know, I just never been that kind of person. I'm very not this kind of person anyway. You know, I don't like to tell people what I make or don't make. It's very hard to pry that information out of me.
Right.
So,
yeah, and I think too, like that's just kind of the like parents in general, right? They want the best for their kids. They want them to succeed, but they're from a different time and a different era where, go to school, get a degree, you come out, you get a good job, like you were working at Microsoft and, like all the different big companies, and you go that corporate route, you climb the corporate ladder. They're like, oh, you're doing good, son. You have health benefits and all this, but
right.
You and I as entrepreneurs, deep down, there's this like itch that you just can't scratch whenever you're in the corporate world.
I know.
And you just have to get out and you have to go on your own, and you got to go full force with it, which is great. And
it gets worse over the years if you hold it back, like I tried the corporate route and don't get me wrong. I started at Microsoft at about 121,000,
right.
Which is great money for most people. And I was very honored to have that kind of money. It just, something was just not there. It just didn't click right. It just didn't feel right. Like I'm like, this stuff over here, if I'm making this person X amount of dollars, but they're charging $600 for my $100, there's that arbitrage rate. I was like, how can I do that myself?
Yeah, exactly.
And at first I thought it was all about money, right? But then it was the thrill of the sell. It was the thrill of what is going on at the current moment in time, the opportunities. And the beauty about with marketing and building apps and websites and stuff like that is that most, if not all, businesses need what I offer. Right. So the opportunities are endless, like super endless. And honestly, I have a hard time now saying no to opportunity, right? And it really hurts me inside. My entrepreneur hurts because when I say no to an opportunity, I'm like, but what if it did this,
Right.
It's a hard one.
So would that be your advice, to say yes to everything until you get to that level? Or do you see like most people that say yes, like they just get burnt out, right? Like I was watching Yes Man with Jim Carrey the other night, which is, it's kind of on topic here. He was saying yes to everything and everything went great, and then he said, no, and then bad stuff starts happening, and like his world falls apart. Like, I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Do you like say that there's someone that's just starting out and they want to, they want to get to that next level? Do you think that they should say yes to everything and go to every niche, or do you think that they should niche down and, go that one path and just stick on that one path and just continue to scale that away? I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm not sure if I'm the perfect or right person to answer this, and other than the fact that I have so many different niches that I do,
You're the man of everything pretty much.
I do well over 50 plus niches now. And but I've learned is that there is something about everything when you're doing the kind of marketing that we do that is kind of all similar, right? There's a different kind of pillars, like, when you're building an ad, it's not just building an ad. It's like you have your front side, which is your graphical, your visual, or your video, whatever it may be. Then you have your copy side, which is another pillar. And then you have your landing page or your the backside or the thank you page or whatever way that falls into place, and then you have your automation, and all four of those together makes, I believe, a decent or great ad, you know, or a campaign, I guess you would say, as a starter strategy, right? But to go back to your question is, should they start? So the bottom line is that before I took on white labeling, right, I was doing retail only. And it was from November of 2017, November 27th, actually. I remember the day that I was just like, I'm gonna buckle down and do this, to that May, which May 3rd or right around there is when I got to 103, right? To do that, I had no employees at the time, and I just did it myself, and I buckled down and I worked 16, 17 hours. Now, some people say, well, I want a short work week and this, and that. And they also say, well, you shouldn't be working so hard, you know, work smarter, not harder, right? Well, I was trying to do both, right? I was working smarter, always automating stuff, and I call it plateauing, right? And you would get to say $5,000 to $10,000, and you're like, I'm still at $10,000 this month. What can I do to do differently? Basically the thing you could do differently is get yourself out of the equation, make whatever is going on automated, and then do the exact same thing, either for another niche or for the same niche in a greater way, right? And so that's what I did, is I took little slices of the pie and I kept adding it up until I had the whole pie, right? And then eventually you'll realize that you'll lose some of the pie, but the more pie was always out there. There's millions of businesses out there. There's always going to be work. There's no niche out there that's saturated. If anyone says a niche is saturated, I'm going to go ahead and say I disagree, because I hit the niches that everyone says is saturated, and I get clients all the time in those niches. So that's really all that is your mindset. And honestly, this whole thing is mindset, because I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to stop, and I'm going to work efficiently. Because there's a difference of just jumping on the computer, scrolling around, getting on Facebook, going do this, doing that, whatever. So I've learned to take distractions out and break my schedule down into increments of like 15 minutes. And so like an hour is broken down with 15, 15, 15. And I also take a break every single hour, whether it's just to walk around or jump on the deck or take a phone call or just play a little game on my phone or something, just nothing, or just veg, right?
Right.
And I found that has cured my sanity, you know, and has also was partially of me going to the next level, in my mind anyway. And in reality, all it is, this is business. It's not doing work. It's just taking action. That's the bottom line. You take action in the sense of, if you have an ad to do, just do it. And then play later, right? And see, we were talking about my parents, right? And I want to bring that back up. One thing, my parents are they're older, you know, so which is why, and when I say older, they're in their 70s, right? And so, and I'm in my 30s. So there's a big gap, right, of just internet and just world of marketing. I don't even know if they even understand marketing still, because they still think it's like postcards and billboards and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Which is marketing. It's just just an older form of traditional marketing.
Yeah.
That being said, what I have realized is they taught me one thing that is probably has set me apart is the work ethic.
Right.
You know, my dad was a workaholic. He was a postmaster general for Florida for like 42 years, like straight hardcore work. He would wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning, be at work there 30 minutes later, and work until 8, 9 p.m. every single day, right? People say, well, you didn't have a childhood because your father didn't sit there and play ball. Well, he taught me some other stuff, you know? And I was able to play ball anyway, so it didn't really matter. You know, I learned that from the neighborhood. But that being said, you know, my father's and my mother's work ethic was impeccable, and they taught me some stuff that I'm glad that they taught me. And really, consistency and taking action is what it's about. That's it. Really, that is it. You got to know some of the technical side, but only enough to be able to explain it, because you can always outsource to me if you want. You can always outsource to anyone. There's always someone you can outsource to, because there's always someone to do the tech side, right? And I've learned I could do either side. I could do the tech side, I could do the sales side, but what can we do better, right? Can I scale the tech side? Can I scale the sales side? Well, of course I could scale either one, but then I'm spreading myself too thin. So, which is why I've basically picked the back side of things and learned more of the tech side, building apps, courses, funnels, everything, right? Building a team, and that's where we are.
So on building a team, and automating everything, what's the most important thing with that, and picking and being able to pick the right people too? Because I had a guy on here. He's the CEO of a company that like all he does is hire salespeople for a SaaS company, and just basically a workforce solutions company essentially. And so what is your take on that, and hiring the right team members and putting the right people in place, and how do you divvy out their tasks to make yourself successful and set them up, for success as well in what they're doing for your business?
Good questions. First things first is processes, right? Mm-hmm. That is, I think, the key to building a larger agency or a larger business, period. And there are big businesses, though, that don't have a lot of processes. You just need to get your core processes down packed. And if you get those, even if it's whimsically, and meaning like it's not on paper, it's just knowledge based, it's a start, right? And if you can explain that knowledge in a video or something like that, it's a starting point that allows you to get to the next step, right? What I have learned to do is to work agile. It's a type of project management where you take a large task and break into micro tasks, right? Because at the end of the day, if you did 45 or 100 micro tasks or versus just 1 or 2 tasks, you seem very more productive. You just feel more productive by doing the larger amount. Right. And at the end of the day, you're like, dang, I did all that. And so what I realized when I started doing that, my team started becoming more productive and finishing way more tasks. And they were the same tasks. Nothing was different. It was just broken down better and easier for them to take and say, all right, well, instead of saying you're going to build a Facebook ad, no, you're going to go get creative and you're going to do X. You're going to do copy. It's going to be X. And then once you have that all broken out, well, guess what you can do next? You can hire individually for a person to get creative, the person to do copy, the person to do this, the person to do targeting, you know what I mean? And then you always have what I've learned. This is a big one. You have checks and balances. We have an alpha review and a beta review. And even with an alpha review and a beta review, we still have things that slip through, but it's a lot less than it was before when you don't have that, that review process. So first set team checks on an alpha, second set team, 2 different people, checks it on beta, and then either I or project manager marks it as complete. So it really is almost a three-point process, right? Before you actually have a task completed, and it seems, well, dang, that seems like it just takes a lot more information or more time. And I guess it kind of does take a little bit more time. But if you're producing a better product, because I mean, like I had to learn, like I was just like going crazy. I was running around like a chicken cut off head, just add, make another ad, funnel, do this, which goes back to your first question, which is, should you just take on anything or should you say no, right? Well, here's the thing. I've had multiple people say, man, why do you take on all these small jobs and do this, and this, and this? And I'm like, I don't know. I just want to do it. And then I started realizing, I don't even know why I'm listening to these people's advice when they're making a third of what I'm making.
Right.
And so I was like, well, maybe I just need to listen to myself at this point. And so I just kept growing from that point and building more teams, building segments, building different departments. And, now I have an HR department and a sales department and a back end and front end department. I have a programming department. I have a marketing department, so I have departments now, We have our meetings, we communicate, there's everything in Asana and automations and all kinds of crazy things, right? But you know what? At the end of the day, it works.
Now, how did you get to that level? Because it started out with just Travis, there in his room, with a computer. But how did you get to that level to where you have all these processes? Did it slowly grow, or did you just kind of one day just all the way like just explode and just hire a bunch of people on the team? Like, what does that process look like for you? And what should it look like for other people? Like, give us advice on that, on what the shortfalls that you've had, in scaling too fast or not fast enough.
Yeah, definitely. And there was a point that I scaled way too fast at one point. And then there was a point where I was scaling myself. And that was the whole 2017 to 2018. I scaled that by myself. There was no employees, nothing. But that same month I got sick, right? And that's what made me realize, like, oh man, I'm sick and I have to talk to the clients and I have to get up and do the work and I can't do anything. I still have to do this, right? So I realized, oh man, I need to hire. So then I started hiring just little pieces of pie that I very, very low amount let go of that control, right? Because control was a hard one for me to let go of, saying, oh yeah, just go run that ad. No, let me see that copy. Wait, let me see that image. Wait. Did you have the pixels? Did you have this?
Yeah.
I guess that's my perfectionist type stuff in me, which I'm not really a perfectionist at all. It's kind of weird. It's just it came out of me when it comes to delegation, right?
Right.
And honestly, scaling is nothing more than delegating. That's it. The better you learn to delegate, the better you learn to lead. And I'm not perfect. I still make mistakes, Just actually the other day, I got mad because I was trying to explain something to someone 4 or 5 times, and it just they didn't get it. They weren't understanding, and I was like, look, just do this, otherwise just go because I'm done, And but that was me getting mad, and I can't let emotion into business in that sense of things. With those, like, you do need emotion somewhat in business, but not in that scenario, right? What I also learned is you can't be friends with your employees all the way, right? You can be kind of acquaintance with a little bit more friendship just so you're nice, but you can't be straight friends. You can't be your goofy self if you're goofy. You can't be this person if you're an asshole. You can't be, I don't know if I can say that word.
Yeah.
If you are, then you can't be that person. You gotta be a kind of a leader and a guidance person, and you have to understand people and dynamics and kind of learn a little bit of psychology. Honestly, reading some psychology papers and books and stuff like that really helped a lot. And learning psychology behind colors and the psychology behind why people do certain things. And there's no real one book. If I was going to give you a book to say that's what you should read, it's just like, if you see a problem or you see something that you're facing, go do some knowledge seeking on that information and find it and pull it back into your scenario. And that's the only way you're going to grow in that sense. Because if you still do the same thing over and over again, what do we call that? Insanity, right? So, yeah, I mean, in reality, delegation, not being overly friendly with your team. Don't be goofy if you're goofy, or don't be an asshole too far if you are one. And process everything you do out, but don't do it. But here's a big but. Process everything out, but don't let processes stop you.
That's a good one.
Because if taking action will do better than taking processes with it. Now, scaling requires processes, rinse and repeat. That's the bottom line. And then what you do is to find out your team, whether it's a VA or not, whatever those tasks are that are repeatable, those are the first things you offload. This is a repeatable task. I don't want to do it anymore, or I don't have the time for it, or it's just repeatable. You offload it, right? And then you move on from there.
Yeah, and that's a big thing too for me that I've started doing is like, I'm doing this little task over here, and then like I write down whatever task I'm doing, and then I write whoever's name next to it that could do this instead of me, right? And just delegating that and slowly letting loose of the reins, but still keeping everything tight enough to where, you run a tight ship. But I do see like what you said, and that really hits home for me, is not being too vulnerable and letting your team take your kindness for weakness, right? Like you still have to run a tight ship. You still have to, put things in place to where you do have those checks and balances, and just not going all willy-nilly, you do this and just do whatever, right? Yeah, I like the alpha and the beta tests to where that you're able to, to really keep that quality assurance for the business.
It has been key to the growth in the last year-ish. Before that, here you go, growing pains, right? Remember, we were talking about scaling too fast. It was probably after that May event, remember 2 years ago, I decided to take on like a higher performing white label scenario, right?
Right.
Well, by doing that, I realized that I was putting too much time into other people's stuff, right?
Right.
So I learned how to process that out, and by learning how to process each of those things out, each person is a different scenario. Sometimes a bad campaign would happen. Sometimes it wouldn't happen. Sometimes, I still have people from that point, and then I have a lot of people I don't have from that point, right? Also, what I learned is the biggest thing in business with marketing is pre-framing your client. If your client understands what they are getting into, they won't charge back, they won't leave you, they'll have communication, and they'll be a happy client.
Right.
And I've learned that tenfold. If you promise someone 40 leads and you're trying to just do that so you can get the client, you're doing a disservice to them and you.
Right.
And if you just do stuff because you don't know what you're doing, you're doing a disservice to both of you again, right?
Right.
So what I've learned is make sure you understand that the client understands that marketing, there is no guarantees.
Yeah.
There is not. I know people guarantee, and you could say you guarantee, like I know I can guarantee 100 new leads for chiropractors coming every month, but I still don't want to say that. The problem is what happens if Facebook decides to say, all right, like they did with real estate, we're going to take away categories, right? There was a big gap of time that real estate really slowed down for a moment there.
Yeah.
Just because it was harder to get leads, or there were just a higher cost, or whatever it is. But imagine they decide, okay, with chiropractor, they decide, okay, now in order to run a Facebook ad campaign, you have to do this specific thing that kind of stops doing the local business type deal, right? You can't dwell and process on one single entity that's going to survive or destroy your business. So if you explain to them that there's possible that it can be good, it can be possible that's bad, and just be real with them, like, hey, look, at first we're throwing out a big fishing net, right? We're casting this net out, we're checking where they're at, we're catching this fish, we're getting a red fish, a blue fish, a green fish. We want the green fish.
Right.
Now that we know where the green fish are, we start taking a poll and we start catching a little bit more green fish. We're still going to get a red and blue fish here and there, but now we're getting more green fish. And you work that deal over time. However, you still explain, even though we're getting those green fish, there may be a special sale or something going on in the world, or there's a holiday that those costs are going to be changed because you can't compete with the big dogs. It's just not how it is if you're doing local business. Now, if you are the big dog, that's the time when you crush the competition, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I'm doing both. I'm doing large companies now, and I'm doing local businesses. So I'm not just doing just local anymore. I'm doing large corporations. I'm doing medium corporations and medium businesses, and small local businesses, all the way up to local businesses up to about $500,000 a month ish, give or take, all the way to large corporations that are making millions upon millions per month.
Right. And how, so on this topic, how, like, what does a typical day for Travis look like, and how do you deal with all this stuff? I know you have really good systems and really good processes, but how do you how do you take on so many businesses, especially the big corporations and stuff, to be able to, create these ads for them and to be able to, do all this media spend and get them the leads, and how do you delegate that out? Because I mean, delegating out someone that has $100,000 budget or $1 million budget a month to a VA to handle that task, like or whether it's an American person, like what does that look like, and how do you know that they're the right person for that job?
So you don't know they're the right person at first,
Right.
until you try it, right? However, you can put checkpoints, which I do, in just teaching people. I also have a little mini quiz that they take after so long, right?
Right.
And if they take the quiz and they fail, well, then they move back down. So I kind of made like a little game, like a little bit of levels, right? So if you're this kind of person, then you're going to just do basic tasks. You're going to do some admin. You're going to check emails. You're going to reply. You're going to send emails. That's what you're going to do. Because some people choose not to go any better. They don't want to do anything better, or they're just content with what they are, and maybe they're just happy to go to work, do a 9 to 5, and leave. Right. I'm not going to downplay any of that, because without people like that, the world would cease to exist. Yes, we as entrepreneurs are generally the people on top for the most part, but without teams, we will fail, we will crash and burn, right? For the most part. Not everyone, because there's obviously companies that can self-sustain with one person, right? But generally, you need a team to survive in long term. So you train them, you test them a little bit more, train them some more, and then just lightly get them there. And when you put someone into a new position, you have to make sure you have someone that can hold their hand for a little while. And I'm not saying literally sit there and hold their hand, but hold their hand in the sense of, hey, no, that's not right. Just let me explain why, Right. And if you then, and also make sure 100% that you have an open line communication, and you don't make them feel like they can't come talk to you for advice. Right. That's a big one, is like they need to be able to, and we have a rule in our company, is that the rule is that if you have a problem that's taking you more than 15 minutes, you have to come to someone that's either higher up or someone that can help you. Yeah. Period. Because if you wait longer than that, then you're just burning time for no reason, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that does. And back to the first part of my question, though, what does an average day look like for Travis?
Oh man, taking naps, just laying around, doing not much. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah, I was like, that's so there.
I know, right? Well, I made my day 11 a.m., which is Central Standard Time, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. So I work 12-hour days every day, 5 days minimum a week. And then I generally will work on Saturdays doing side businesses or stuff like that. So as you know, I have some offline businesses that it took, when you first start an offline business, it takes a lot up front.
Right.
But once you do that up front, then you kind of stop, right? Because then you're just kind of on that process of what you're doing, and you're making sure that they have money, you're making sure that they have marketing going. What we offer as marketers is the key to success for every business.
Right.
And that's the bottom line. So if you can find a business that does XYZ and you help them do this in return for a percentage, which means you need to be good at what you're doing, don't take a percentage if you're not good at that niche, right?
Right.
And if you can, guess what? You're going to make way more money doing that way than just saying, hey, pay me $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month.
Right. So how would you, so with that, well, first off, how many businesses total do you have now? That's a good question.
So I would say I'm part owner of, I think I'm at 17.
Oh, wow.
I'd have to do a full count off the top of my head. And I'm not even counting softwares,
right?
Little businesses that are about ready to spawn. I have like 6 in the incubator right now that are about ready to pop. So,
So you're,
and that's not even software.
yeah. So I mean, with softwares and everything, you're probably closer to at least like what, 30 or 40?
I would say I'm probably closer to like 25 to 30. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we counted all of them. Yeah. And again, I'm not involved in the day-to-day on all of them. I built out the day-to-day and I learned to delegate the day-to-day. And then I was able to X me outside of that position.
Now, how do you do that? And how, like walk me through the process of gaining equity in a company, because I mean a lot of marketers in the space, they've never even thought about this side of things, is gaining equity in a company. You run the marketing. Like how does that conversation even come up? And because a lot of people, especially us as entrepreneurs, we don't want to give up control. It's like you were saying, you're not a perfectionist, but whenever you're talking about your baby,
Right.
you don't want to give up the baby, right? And how does that conversation go? Like, say that you're talking with a roofer and I want to run his ads for him and get him, awesome results, but I want 20% of his company. Like,
Right.
how does that conversation go? Do you have, I mean, obviously you have to build up a huge, huge set of rapport with him, but what, what,
Actually,
huh?
you don't have to build that. You
Oh,
don't.
wow.
You just have to show the same amount of passion or more in what he's doing in your own mind as well. That's the
Right.
first thing is first. Because if I show you that I am as passionate about your business as you are with yours or more, you're going to listen, at least listen, right?
Right.
And then if I'm going to offer you things that are going to equal to like 10 to 40 to $50,000 a month that you're going to spend anyway, or you're going to eventually spend, and you can kind of get a hike or a kickstart at it, then that helps. That's what I've learned, and I've done it multiple different ways.
Mm.
The way I started my flooring company, way different than the way I do it now. When I
Right.
started my flooring company, I needed floors for my house, and I basically invited a whole bunch of flooring companies over to my house, and I said, "Hey, everybody, I know this is a little weird, but this is what's going on. I'm not going to choose the person who's the highest, and I'm not going to choose the person that's the lowest. I want to get a fair deal, and we'll do some business together." And originally, I was just doing that so I can have basically, competitors compete, because what I've learned about contractors is they will judge you by, and actually most people will do this, and marketers do it too. They will judge you by what you have.
Right.
Right. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to take the judging out of it, because now you're competing with everyone else, and it's in front of your eyes. Like, we're always competing with someone else, but it's a lot different if you jump on the phone with someone and say, yeah, I'm going to talk to you about marketing, blah, blah, blah. This is what you need to do, than rather being on a Zoom call with 10 marketers at the same time. All right, guys, tell me what you're going to do, and
Right.
win me over. Right. So that's what I did. And then I, basically cut it down to I found 2 people, and the person that I ended up choosing to do a partnership with, he was new, not in the business, because he's known the business for 23, 24 years, but he was new starting his own business. So he didn't really know a lot about business. Like, he was still writing handwritten invoicing, and he had no marketing, no website, nothing, no customer support, and no customer service. So I was like, all right, one or two things could happen here. I could run and put money into this, and it collapse and fall because the guy doesn't know how to business, or he can really love this passion. So I needed to figure out how passionate he was about it.
Right.
So when we started, this is how passionate he was. I was like, all right, this is what we're doing. He's like, well, man, I have to make a choice of either living, and this is true story, either living at home because it's so far away where he was at, or buying a cot and put it in the back of the store for the first like 6 months ish, because he wanted to be, because it was just so far. Like, he was like, it's taking me an hour to get to and from, because we put the store in a location that we knew would make a lot of money, but it was super far from where he lived, right? So he was like, I'm just going to leave my place and I'm going to stay here. And he did. He slept inside the office, And he did it. So like I knew he was passionate about this, right? Like
Right.
Kevin, he was already saying this before it even happened. I was like, man, you should just get an apartment around. He was like, no, man, I want to save money for the business. I want to do this. I was like, all right, cool. If you want to do this, this is your thing. I said, I'd even help you float the rent on the apartment and everything like that. But now that was said, and in 6 months, it didn't matter anyway. We were making enough money in that business, and he was making enough money that he was able to go buy his own house. Not in cash, but just get into a house.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's how that worked. But I don't do all that now,
Right.
because that's not scalable either, right?
Yeah.
But local business, they have to have a similar passion with you, and you have to have a similar passion with them. It's not selling them. It's not any of that stuff. It's just if you guys can match passions, and he has a business sense enough that he can do the work, because most people are horrible at business. That's the bottom line. But they're great for trade, right? Chiropractors, most of them have poor business practices. They're wasting money all over the place. They're paying people to do shredding and paying people to do this, and this, and when a lot of it can be automated, or they're doing the same thing over and over again, they're stuck in their rut. They don't understand how to change stuff. And chiropractors make great amount of money, but they also can fail really fast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's really to figure out their problem, help them with their problem, make sure that they have the same similar passion with you, and then take it to the next level, and really put your time and effort into it. Like, don't take on 2 businesses if you can't handle it. Don't take on 3 if you can't handle it. If you take on 1, and most people can't. Like, at first I could not. I was doing flipping in my agency and this. I was flipping homes. I mean, doing agency and running the flooring store and all this stuff, and I was spreading myself too thin. Then again, the power of delegation. You need a project manager or someone you trust for every single business or section of your business that you do.
Right.
For growth, for long term. At first, you can start it with your own self. You can do it all yourself, but for growth, you need to delegate.
Yeah. Now, and with the project manager, that's kind of the A/B process too. Like, you have a low tier project manager and then the high tier project manager. At least in my mind, that's what I'm thinking that you're saying. And they're able to provide those checks and balances to where even if something does slip through the cracks, it's not going to be as bad as if, you just completely missed it all together, and it's just you running the whole ship.
Right. And so, yes, and that is mostly true, is that yes, you need a higher level and a lower level, but you also need an in between too. So like your project manager is really, I call him the glue, or her the glue, right? And they're the glue of that section or that business. Like, you may have one person that's a project manager that can handle the whole business and delegate everything with their people, right?
Right.
Or you may need like sections of a business, like my agency now, because I have so many different things with white label and nod and all that stuff. I have people in each section with a sub and a main, right? A sub and a main, sub and a main. And so that way we always have, again, that AB plus a completed, right? Beta, alpha, completed.
Right. So it's kind of, in short, it's an ABC method. You
ABC, it's actually the alpha, the beta, and the closer.
Yeah, nice. I like that. Now with doing, because you're in so many different niches and you're in so many different industries, like how does that happen? Like with the sales calls, I mean, obviously you're not taking all the sales calls. You're probably just taking, the bigger sales calls. Do you just outsource a 1099 sales guy, or like what does that process look like for you? Because it's tiring.
I have some 1099ers and I have some full staffers, right?
Yeah.
And I'm actually growing that part of the business because I'm opening up a call center, okay? And that's my next thing, and I think it's going to be a core part of my business and my future business. And we're going to also offer a service, not just for us internally, because we've already been doing it internally, but we're going to offer a service where, say you have, 50 leads, you send them to us and we call them and try to close and set appointments for that client.
Right.
And that service is going to be coming up soon. And I realize that is a key component in this business.
Right.
If you have a client that you generate them 100 leads, what good is the 100 leads if they don't call them?
Yep. 100%.
You can blame it on the client because they don't call them, but then you don't have a monthly next month. They're either too busy, or they don't know how, or they don't care. Whatever it is, it's not necessarily our job, but it is our job to figure out how can we help them. We are solution builders, creators, and that's what we do, right? We come up with solutions. We create a solution for your problem. It's not just marketing. Marketing just is one of the solution fix, right? It's just that fixing certain things. Marketing will fix partially your sales, but it won't do sales. You gotta have someone to call. You have someone to reach out. I don't care how much automation you have. Even with automation, you're leaving people on the table. Whether you're using high level or just your own setup with Zapier or whatever it is, you're leaving money on the table by not having these people called. And I've seen this firsthand because I've been doing it now with a couple of different clients. And the ratio went from like a 27% to well over 40 on the average, to some of them all the way to the 60s and 70% close ratios. Right. So, which if you bring $3,000 and let's just say it's a roofer and you charge them $4,500,
right?
And out of the $4,500, you generate them 100 leads, and they only close one or two.
Right.
They may stick around, they may not, because they called 100 leads. That time is still a factor, right? People. That's another thing that marketers don't realize is that you're sending them 100 leads, but if you send them 100 leads and they don't have the time to call all 100 leads, you're wasting the money on the ads and you're wasting their time, right? Or they, even if they had the time and they don't know how to do it, you're putting too much scenario. Again, like I said, most people are horrible at business parts, but they're great at their trade, right?
Right.
So they can explain to you, this is why you got to fix an AC, but they can't say, I'm going to sell you an AC, right? There are different parts and different folks for everything. So why not do it for them? And we're doing it at a very low cost. Instead of like the average companies out there that are doing about $5 to $7 a lead, we're starting off at $4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, basically if you get a lead, which average leads are between $2 and $6 right now, and let's just say that you get high cost leads at $10, and you add $4 on top of it, $14 for a lead in almost any industry, that turns into a 40 to 70% turnover into an appointment, is phenomenal in my book.
Yeah.
When you look at those kind of numbers.
Yeah.
But
That's
most people do.
So with that, so basically you're building an ISA service, where they call them and, you have all your automations built out, and especially with $4 a pop. I mean, that's huge, because I like right now I can think of at least 15 people that would use that service, especially at that price, because there's nobody else, doing it at that price. But I have seen, because that's something that I'm starting to integrate into my business as well, because, my vertical is real estate and loan officers right now. And that's the hugest component that a lot of people that they miss out on. They miss out on the actual nurture part, because, I have a 27-day follow-up sequence for, my clients. And I was looking at it the other day, and one person, he got 15 different contacts through, text messages, emails, all these different, voicemail drops, all these different platforms. And he finally raised his hand after the 15th contact, which, it kind of blows my mind, because, you got to wonder, was this guy getting all the messages before then, or did did it just take him that long to raise his hand and say, yeah, I want to buy a house now or whatever,
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, it could be all of the factors, or it could be the wrong time. There's times, think about you get a call or you get a text message when you're walking in or out of a car, or when you're walking in and out of the restroom, or you're about ready to sit down and eat, and you're like, yeah, I'll hit that back up. But if it's someone that you don't know, you're not going to hit it back up right away,
Right.
and forget about it. And there's quite a possibility that it can happen 5, 10, 20 times potentially, that especially if you have a set schedule and and those things are hidden on those schedule, that could be a problem, and so there's multiple touch points. And so that goes back to the system. We will call the lead, ready for this, 27 times. 3
wow.
in the first day, 2 the second day, 1 at the end of the week, and 1 every other week for the rest of the year.
Wow. That's awesome.
For $4, one time.
That's incredible. I love that. And that we'll definitely be talking offline about this, because I'm very intrigued about that. Are you going to have a cap on the leads? Because I know some are doing caps on the leads, or is it just going to be $4 a pop, no matter what, no cap?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have a cap.
Oh, wow. That business is going to scale pretty quick. And I can tell you that, because at least from talking to other ISA companies and what I'm seeing in some of the different mastermind groups that I'm in, and, different people that are using ISAs currently, that's going to shut them all down. That, your service is definitely going to be one to be hard to beat, for sure.
Yeah, we plan on, I'm not sure if we're going to do this now or not, but we're going to be a virtual ISA instead of everyone inside one building. We're going to all be in one side virtual room, right? And we're going to have our meetings virtually, in the sense of not just like how we're doing a meeting right now, but maybe even take it a step further. I was thinking about anyone who's they've stayed after like maybe a month or two, I'm going to send them some sort of unit that they put on their head, and we do it virtual reality and just test it out and, try new things, be a full, like EXP does all their stuff, their virtual world, we're going to do the same thing, but with like the goggles, and,
right.
I just, I like to think outside the box a little bit like that, to have some fun. Because if we do the same crap every single day, we're going to get bored, which is why I set my schedule the way it is, because it's always rotating. Like if I have a project and I can't get it done in an hour, I only do it in an hour. And then the next hour I do a different project. And then in the third hour, I go back to that same project, right? Just so I make sure that it gets done. But if I consistently do the same project over and over and over and over and over again until it's done, I feel like it doesn't get done as fast. I've seen a massive improvement by skipping and doing breaks, not just like breaks to get away from the computer, but doing a different task. And I'm not saying do them together, don't multitask.
Right.
Take the task, make sure you're doing that task for that 15 minutes. Don't do anything else. Don't check your Facebook. Don't do this. That's why right before we started, I was like, let me close everything, because this is going to be my task for the hour, which I think we're over on the hour. But
yeah.
So
yeah. So with that's awesome. And definitely delegating that and giving yourself free time, which I'm guilty of not doing, is not giving myself enough free time. And I just, constantly going and going and going. And, that, like in Spain, right, at 3:00, the whole city shuts down. They go take a nap, they drink some wine, and then they go back for like an hour, which is incredible. And so on that, well, like, what are some of the common myths and controversies that you've seen in our industry, and what are the biggest things for people that are failing or they're giving up too early? Like, what are some of the things that you think about that, and why?
Okay, say that one more time.
So what are some of the common myths in our industry, and what is the biggest thing between people failing and giving up then versus people like yourself that are succeeding and making these multiple 6 figures and 7 figures and 8 figures? Like, what's the difference?
So, okay, giving up is just your mindset, right? So if you want something bad enough, or you can't have something, you're going to do it. You're going to just do it, right? It's just how we are as humans. If you want to make yourself a sandwich, you're going to make a sandwich. If you like, man, I really want pizza today, somehow, some way, you find a way to get pizza, right?
Right.
It's the same thing. And what I've done was, I'm like, all right, if I get this many clients, it gives me this things in return, whether it's pays my bills, gets me a new car, gets me a new house, gets me an investment, invest into something, this or that, or starts a new business, right? And I calculate my clients into how many clients do I need in order to accomplish and make sure that my MRR or my businesses are surviving constantly, right? And so, and make sure you segment that in just and only in that sense, meaning don't treat a client as like they're just money, but just treat the money of the client as just as it is. It's just a tool. That's all it is. Use that tool to make other things work and move for you. And then you're going to realize that it's just going to kind of come easy. Now, here's the thing. If you really don't want to be that, or you can't be an entrepreneur, you're going to find out. If you constantly have a struggle and you're constantly trying to force yourself to do things because you think you want to make more money, you really may not be that type of person.
Right.
No. And it's, again, that type of person can be changed, and you can manipulate to that kind of person by, taking action and really doing it in your own mind. And if you focus on whatever that is, action item or whatever the task at hand, and you say, well, if I do this task, it's going to bring me this much closer to my goal. Maybe it's not money. Maybe it's just to have a day off or 10 days off. If I get $10,000 in this amount of time, I can take this much time off, right? However, don't skip 1,000, 2,000, all the way up to 10,000. Don't just think, oh man, I'm gonna get $10,000 this month. If you had $0 this month and you're gonna go get $10,000 this month, do you think that's an accurate mindset? I think that's a myth. That myths, and you're talking about myths. Oh, I'm gonna get 10,000 in this month. Yeah, you can get 10,000 in this month, but not everyone's gonna do it. Right? Most people are happy to make an extra $250 to $500 a month. Period. Right. I just want to have a little bit extra money to do this. Now, those people may not be an entrepreneur as much. They just may be someone who's looking for a side gig, and that's okay. But then you have the people like, I definitely going to make $10,000, and you will make $10,000 because $10,000 really is easy to make in 1 month, But that being said, though, it's hard for people to understand that if they've never done it, if they've never seen it. And it's hard to trust who's a real guru or who's a real mentor. Then it's not. I know too many people out there that they say that they're doing XYZ and they're all flashy, and they're really not. They are not making what they say they're making, right? Right. And if you have someone like me, if you look at my profile, I look like a broke 40-year-old. That's just the plain truth to it. And that's just because I don't like posting and I'm not flashy and all that stuff like that. But I'm doing maybe 10 times more than most of those people out there that have the Lambos and all that stuff flashy out there. Do I have that kind of stuff? Yes, I do. But I don't go showing it. And maybe that's just my own cup of tea. And I'm sure if I did start showing it, I'd probably make more money. But I also think that that's a different kind of breed of money. And I'm not sure if I want to go that route or not, right? Have I coached people? Absolutely. There's some people out there that are making quite a bit of money from some of the stuff that I've helped them with and some of the stuff that they've learned on their own, right? So anyone that I've helped, I can't take credit for them. I'm applauding them in the corner because I know I helped at some point, even if it's one sentence that I helped someone, that's enough for me to say, all right, I did my job, right? Yeah. And some other myths, right? A myth is that you don't have to niche down. You really don't. Right. I'm proof of that by far. Yeah. But I've also known that you can niche down and still be super successful. I know quite a bit of people that are successful in just one singular niche, right? So it's not a myth, but it's not a full truth either. It's kind of like whatever you can do is the real action. I don't know, some other myths. Just be true to yourself and take action and learn how to delegate, and you'll be successful.
Yeah. Awesome. You're dropping some gold on this podcast. We're about to wrap up. I want to ask you a couple more questions. So the first thing is, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years, Travis? What is Travis going to be doing in 3 to 5 years? And where do you see your businesses at?
Well, what I'm already kind of gearing towards right now, I want to do two things. I want to be kind of like I want to have a business that's either kind of like consulting, but not really, that I want to help other businesses start up and survive, or even businesses that are surviving, take them to the next level, like a little bit of an incubator, right? Because like I'm doing a little bit in a very small scale with my current businesses, and I've helped other people scale their businesses. And a lot of it's automation, a lot of it's processes, a lot of it's just not knowing how to do business. And I think that's partially what's helped me, is that I've learned a lot about business itself, because I used to sell websites and SEO, right? And SEO is one of the hardest things to sell. You're selling them something that they can't touch, they'll never own. If you stop it, it'll go away. It costs a lot of money, and it takes 4 to 6 months to get going, right? On average, depending, right? So like it's a hard sell. Once I learned how to do that kind of stuff, I mean, like everything else kind of seemed easy, in the grand scheme of things as far as sales goes. But what I've learned from that is that I got to talk to literally thousands of businesses, whether they're websites or SEO or just marketing that I've helped people with. And I've asked them a couple questions, like kind of like what I guess you're doing here, is I've asked them, what did you do wrong? What can you do to make it better? And obviously not just directly like, hey, what did you do wrong in your business? But I befriend them, and I understand what their problems are by asking them very simple questions. I had a chiropractor. He was like, yeah, I have 8 locations, blah, blah, blah. But, at one point in time, I had 23 or 24 locations. I was like, oh man, what happened? Right.
Right.
And from that point, it just kind of spiraled into these questions and knowledge drops that he was giving me that he didn't even know that they were knowledge, because he thought they were all negative points, right? Someone's trash is another person's treasure.
Right.
Bottom line, right? If I tell you a negative fault that I've had in my business, take it not as a grain of salt, but take it and run with it, saying, I don't want to do that. Right. I don't want that to happen to my business. At least keep it in the back of your mind at the minimum. Mm-hmm. Understand that there is a possibility that everything you could do can collapse and fall and crash and burn tomorrow. Because of XYZ kind of things. So I have those things in my head, and I try to prevent them ahead of time. But then I also know the positives about business, the little things, the nuances, the positives, the negatives, that all kind of add up to become what I would call business, the perfect circle in business, right? But again, that perfect circle doesn't always transpire to another circle. So like if you learn from a mentor, doesn't mean that mentor will teach you everything that you need to know about business.
Right.
Or maybe they don't teach you anything about business. They just teach you about Facebook ads, and you think you're going to take off and be a big old business and a millionaire, and it doesn't work. You need to work on yourself as well, and you need to learn your own business.
Right.
How can you think that you're going to go help these other businesses if you can barely survive and pay your rent? Right? I mean, yes, you're out of necessity, and you're going to be able to do it. But if you don't sit there and say, well, you know what? How can I help you?
Right.
Like, okay, so you're going to run ads, and we're going to go ahead and charge you $5,000 or whatever it is, right?
Right.
Well, I got to make sure before we take that on now, and this goes back to the pre-framing now, and this is what I do for my retail. I got to make sure that I'm able to make sure that the $5,000 that I take from you will you get money back, or at least break even, right? Or even a little under is still okay if you make people understand that they're also getting stuff. They're getting likes, they're getting data, they're getting understanding. Because sometimes people think, oh well, my customer's a 35-year-old white man, right? when in reality it's a 33-year-old or 40-year-old white woman, right? And men don't even like their product at all. I've had so many times that I've got with a client, I'm like, all right, so do you have any customers? Yeah, we've been doing business for this long. Okay, so what is your average customer look like? What's your avatar? What's your value ladder? What's your steps to success? And I know these are all keywords and terms that we say, but most business owners have no clue at all. I talk to them. I'm like, so what's your value ladder? Or I'm like, like what's your loss leader? Like, how McDonald's has a $1 soda, and basically you're not just gonna go there and buy a soda. And the people that they just move along. And the people who buy a soda and they go get a burger and fries. Well, the burger and fries are making way more profit. And that $1 soda they're probably getting for 16 cents anyway. So they're making profit anyway, just by you revolving through the door. As long as you're able to make profit with your loss leader, your irresistible offer, why not do it? I get another thing that I think's a myth is these people say, well, if you do coupons and you do this, it devalues your business.
Right.
Okay. What business out there that's a big business that that has never had a coupon? I mean, like, I can't think of what. Netflix has done coupons. Nike has done coupons. Best Buy does coupons. Like, everything does some sort of offer, some sort of irresistible offer that allows you to walk in the door, because we know that not everyone is geared towards just quality or brand name. There is still other people out there, which then you're hitting the big population. Instead of just hitting a little slice of the pie, you're able to hit the whole pie.
Right.
And if you're able to do that, you can actually win. And which is why I think I don't niche down, because I'm like, well, why should I just do chiropractors even though I kill it? Why should I just do real estate agents even though I kill it? I don't think I should, because then there's people like you. You do real estate, right? Am I competing with you? Yes, maybe, no. I think no. I don't think I'm competing with you because there's 1.3 million real estate agents in the United States. And if I'm competing with you and you're competing with me, then that means we're the two top guys in the world. That's the only way. Otherwise, we're just kind of saying, hey, I'm kind of competing with you. And the only time I compete with you is if I take your client or you take my client. That's it. Otherwise, if you get a client in the real estate realm and I get a client from the real estate realm, whether they're even in the same city, we're not competing with each other. All we're doing is competing ad spend and auction space together. And that's it.
Right.
We're still not competing, which, a lot of marketers don't play well with other marketers. Right. And I get some of it. And there's some things you should keep and hold dearly. Like, don't go showing all your campaigns to everybody. Right. But there's also, collaborations, which is why I started doing quote unquote white labeling first, is because I wanted to do collaborations. If I can't sell all day long, they can sell, and they can't do the back end. Well, we work together. Well, I realize that's not all what white label is, which is why I JV now mostly, because there's a lot of teaching involved, and there's a lot of talking involved, and there's a lot of we're in business together. That's the real truth. Right. I'm not providing you leads anymore. I'm helping you with your business, and you're helping me with mine. Bottom line.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, and you have to complement one another too. Like, one person's good at sales, one person's good at the back end, or whatever that partnership looks like, for sure. Well, that's great. You've dropped some gold today, and I want to ask you a couple more questions. One is these are a little off topic, but what's your favorite food?
My favorite food. Oh man, that's a good one. I like lasagna. Italian food, honestly. Anything Italian. I'm Italian, so Italian food is definitely on my palate forever.
Yeah, every metaphor that you've ever given me, Travis, has either revolved around spaghetti or lasagna or pizza or something like that. Yeah. Every single
right? If you have a plate of spaghetti and you're putting Parmesan cheese, that one.
Yeah, that one, and then pieces of the pie or pieces of the pizza. Yeah. Pretty much any one of them.
It's a pizza pie.
Right. What is one of your favorite books, or any type of course or knowledge that you've gotten that has astronomically skyrocketed your business and your mindset? What would that be? A book or a course or something?
honestly, not listening to other people.
Mm.
I have found that if I listen to someone, then I try to dwell on what they're teaching me to do.
Yeah.
That I'm not listening to myself, which has actually gotten me to the place I needed to be first in the first place. Right? We all have a level of guidance that we can accept, but if you take too much from someone, then you're just that someone. Right? Again, like I said, if I only teach someone a sentence, I'm okay with that. If I teach someone everything they know, I really didn't teach them or do them justice.
Yeah.
Because then they're just kind of a clone of me, or they're just someone that thinks that they're going to be able to do exactly what I did. And that's not true. Just because you think you can do exactly what I do may or may not be true, but it's only in your work ethic, right? You got to work as hard as I did. You got to do as much as I did. It's just not going to come easier because you had a shortcut with me, because you know this kind of stuff, right?
Right.
But the truth is there are shortcuts. You can understand logic, right? But the overall business, there is no shortcut. In reality, there really is. I mean, unless you have money that's given to you that's completely free, that you don't have to pay back or anything like that, it's very hard to jumpstart and get ahead of things. Now, that being said, don't get me wrong, I can tell you some stuff that will tweak your ad campaign that you'll make more money than you ever make before, but that doesn't mean that's going to make or break your business. So to your original question, I listen to less books and stuff than most people. What I read is factual papers, like white papers, right? And there's no specific place that I do it. And I read in direct logic. Okay. So if I have a problem, I read about that problem and only that problem. I don't try to go too far into that subject unless I have to. Except for psychology, I've learned a lot about that more just because there's a lot in the marketing realm, right?
Right.
What color converts the best? What works the best? What works the best in this scenario? But even then, it's not a perfect solution. It's just what someone has thought and someone has experienced and then regurgitated it into a form of information. But it doesn't mean that you're going to consume the same information that they learned it in.
Right.
And that's the truth. If I made $1 million in one day and I told you this is how I did it, and you did the exact same process, you're not going to make $1 million either. It just, because there's no way I can tell you everything that I did to get to the point where I'm at. Nor can I tell you everything that I'm going to do, because it changes. And there's things that we forget. There's things that we miss. There's things that we don't understand that we're doing. And my personality is different than your personality. Your voice is different than my voice. Those things are factors to everything you do. I don't care what anyone says. People judge without understanding that they're judging, even if it's an unbiased judgment. People do it. They look at your picture and they think X, Y, Z for whatever reason, positive or negative. It could go both ways, but they're still thinking it. There's no one that looks at a picture and just doesn't say something internally into their heart, because we are humans, and by nature we have the flight, fight, resistance, right? If something we look at is going to scare us or make us feel bad or icky or nasty inside, we're going to fight it, right? Or we're going to run from it. One of the two things, right?
Right.
And that's it, So I take that as way I look into as mentorship and stuff like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I've talked to people in little conversations, and I've had a 10-minute conversation, and someone tells me one little thing, one tiny thing, and it takes me to the next level. But that little thing meant nothing to them, but it meant something to me.
True. And that compounds too, right? Like, it's little things over time that builds you into who you are and builds you into what your business is, because you're constantly taking little gold nuggets from here and there.
Yep. Absolutely. It's like
awesome.
It's always raining gold.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say what that could be, but
right. Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. And so, wrapping up here, Travis, how can people get in touch with your business? And then I want one final question after this. So just go ahead and tell people how they can get in touch with you, whether they want to hire you for your services or if they have questions or comments, how can people get a hold of you?
You could find me at leadninjas.io. That's ninjas, because there's a bunch of us. And either fill out a form there or do a calendar on there as well. Or just message me on Facebook. I am always on there. And it's not Facebook, actually, I should say Messenger, because I have my Messenger constantly open, but I don't have Facebook always open. That's actually helped me a lot.
Yeah. And he probably gets a million DMs a day, so it might take a little bit for him to get back to you, but he's normally pretty quick. But
yesterday I had 371. So my assistant reads them all and gives me a chunk at the end of the day, or in quarters of the day actually now. And we had 371 messages yesterday. The day before that was like 280. On average, it's between 250 and 350 messages a day. So I talk to a lot of people on a daily basis, but I will always respond. Just, it may take a little bit.
Yeah, I got to send him smoke signals sometimes to get a hold of him, but
yeah, you do actually.
Yeah. So, all right. So
scheduling a calendar with me, I'll be there.
Yeah, exactly. So the last question for you, Travis, is if today was your last day on earth, what would you want to be known for? What are you building for your legacy?
That's a good one as well. Very good. Great question. My legacy is a perpetual giving back to the people that are in my life. Like, I am always helping family. I mean, the whole reason I even live in Texas now is for family. When I was traveling all over the place, right? And family and friends and loyalty means a lot to me. So if I could just say, that someone said, he was always there for me, or he was a good guy, or, just the basics.
Right.
Besides leaving, a legacy for my son to be able to, be okay for the rest of his life, I'd be okay. I'd be happy to go right now.
Yeah. That's huge. That's deep. And it's kind of like Gary Vaynerchuk says, is you judge it by how many people are at your funeral, right? Like you want a lot of people to be there and say that Travis was a great guy. And I'm the same way too. Trying to build my legacy for my family and friends. And that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. But yeah, that's incredible.
Would you be at my funeral?
I would be at your funeral in a
There
heartbeat.
There you go. See, I'm doing something all right.
Right? Exactly.
I'm trying. I mean, I hope I don't die anytime soon,
Right. Hopefully we both have lots of years ahead of us.
Yeah, I hope so too. And humans are living longer and longer these days, so who knows what's going to happen. And thank you. I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah,
and thank you for asking. I mean, honestly, it didn't even feel like a show. It just felt like a good conversation.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. And I'm glad that you took the time out of your day to be here, Travis. I appreciate you being on the show. And, maybe we'll do a follow-up, whenever you're, doing something crazy. I feel like you got a lot to do in this life. You're probably going to be like the next Elon Musk, where he's building out the Neuralink, or I feel like you got something crazy that's going to pop up and you're going to revolutionize the world. So I truly believe that.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And Elon, I'm a big supporter of Elon.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with the Tesla and everything.
I love my Teslas. Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing some incredible things. Well, thank you for being on the show, Travis, being on Whiskey with Winners, and everybody tune in and stay tuned. We have some more great guests on the next season, and I appreciate you for being the show closer. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Travis about anything, and we thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for listening to the Whiskey with Winners podcast, your home for real and raw stories of industry titans. Make sure to click the button below to subscribe. Follow our journey on Instagram Most Interesting Marketer, and Anchor, Stitcher, YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. Remember to always stay humble, stay hungry, and stay focused.
Everything that I'm saying is out of context. Wait, it's not even really a contest. See, if you already know, then I'm next. Looking at a bodybuilder like Y-Flex. I'm dope in the pot like it's Pyrex. And I do it big just like a T-Rex. A T-Rex, I'm the best to ever do it. You know, could be so dope when he float to the fucking music. Like, this shit is nasty for real. Yeah, I'm dope. You don't even have to ask me for real, man. Damn, I think I'm going wrong. I'm going hard. Woo. Who you know could come up with the bar? I'm a shooting star. I shine bright in the fucking night, and they can't tell me that I'm doing wrong. I do it right, like I'm at the top. So who you know could really top that? Yeah, and tune in to the podcast.